Please help support the channel by visiting our Amazon store, affiliate link below.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt Jarbo, this is 3 Buck Theater, and this is my review, my what I think, of the Orville, Season 1, Episode 9, Cupid's Dagger. Now, I will fully admit that I am a week behind on this episode. I have been very busy and have not been able to review it, but don't get me wrong, I feel bad for it because it's actually one of the better episodes of the season thus far, especially when it comes to understanding a bit as to why Kelly and Ed had their fallout and just how Darulio, sweet, sexy Darulio, had to do with it. Now, the general plot outline of this episode is interesting because what you have is the planet Lipovius, where it's occupied by two different races. You have the Navarians and the Bruidians, and they are kind of in this civil war over it. And so an archaeologist has uncovered an old relic that can be used to determine which species holds the dominant right to the planet in terms of DNA scanning. And that is where Darulio comes in. He is the only person in the Union who is nearby to be able to handle this, and he shows up. And when he does, I thought this was great. When he shows up, no one knows he's coming. Alara finds out. She races down there to try to intercept Kelly and Ed before they get there, and they don't. Then out comes Rob Lowe as Darulio. Now, if there's any actor in Hollywood that would be a special guest star who every crew member would probably want to get with, it would clearly be Rob Lowe. I mean, to me, he played the role very similar to Chris Traeger from Parks and Recreation, but just it was Chris Traeger in space. I'm okay with that. I love Parks and Rec. I think it's a fantastic show, and I'm on board with more Darulio in the future, especially because of the rift it caused between Kelly and Ed. Now, you know, those of you who have seen the episode, you know that Darulio was the blue alien that I jokingly said kind of spunked a little early from the blue stuff in his head when Ed walked in on him and Kelly in the very first episode. And here's this guy, this dude that destroyed a marriage, essentially helped destroy a marriage. It's not all on him, but helped destroy a marriage. And as a result, you know, he's now on board. So you have like the will they, won't they, is this going to be the episode where they determine how much they love each other, how much they miss each other? Are they going to get back together? Season 1, Episode 9, Cupid's Dagger. No, not at all. It tossed the concept, the general concept, on its ear, which I really liked. But before we jump into that, I do have to point out one thing. The cold open of the show, when they're doing karaoke and Bortus gets up there to sing Celine Dion, My Heart Will Go On, I was rolling in laughter because we know from the previous episode he made the quip, I can sing, and we're waiting for Bortus to get up there and do it. And it's just one of those things too where I've said before, Bortus doesn't get the love, I think, that like his character deserves. Ever since the episode, I think episode 3, when they went to Mocklin, he's kind of been getting the backseat a little bit. And Bortus has like the best lines and just like the best everything. I'm a Bortus fan. I love the character. So I'm glad, you know, that they were going to kind of play that gag out. And then of course, he didn't get a sing, which again, they're going to hold us probably for another episode. And I'm hoping when it does, it's a miraculous singing voice. I hope it sounds like Mariah Carey or something. And you know, there's eventually going to be a musical episode. This is Seth MacFarlane we're talking about here. Okay. Like he loves to sing. So it's clearly going to happen at some point in time, probably not until season 3, I'm going to say. And given how popular the show has gotten recently, I'm pretty sure we're going to get a season 3. The show is fantastic. Anyway, so Darulio, this is an interesting thing. We discover that he has this magnetism about him, right? And it's one that catches a lot of people off guard, especially Ed, because Ed, you know, he kind of chastises him a little bit, right? He chastises him and everything else. And Darulio says, you know what, man? Yeah, you're right to be upset. Okay. And you deserve the space to be upset. Now that kind of a response would come across as cocky, and kind of douchey for almost any other person out there. But I think Darulio really meant it. I don't think the guy ever really looked at what he did as being a bad thing. Right now, he understands why Ed is upset. He understands why everything happened like it did. But he's also, I think, just kind of like, hey man, it happened. Like, just let's move on. It's been a year. I mean, who's still bringing up stuff from a year ago? Like, that's old. It's old, man. It's old news. And that's what I think a fair amount of his approach to it was. And of course, Ed he's pissed, man. This is a guy who cheated. Destroyed his marriage, love of his life. And here he is saying, yeah, you have the space to be angry. And Kelly wasn't really helping much. I think she was trying to, but she wasn't really helping too much, especially when she went down there to kind of confront him. And then all of a sudden she ends up right back in the same territory she was in a year earlier. They end up having sex. Ed catches him. And that, you know what? I'm not going to lie. As a fan, I was pretty pissed at Kelly during that part in the episode. I was pretty pissed off. I'm like, God, Kelly, what? Again, Kelly? God damn. I was pissed off. I was feeling for Ed, and I think anyone out there who's ever been in love with somebody and been like cheated on or disrespected like that can understand where Ed is coming from. It's one of those things where you're just like, right? Well, that being said, Ed goes and he, goes to chew out Darulio. And Darulio has this very interesting kind of come back to it, right? Where he says, like, it's on in my culture, it's considered a dishonor to turn down sex, right? A good deflection, but he kind of comes across as a Lothario. And it makes sense, essentially, that would be something maybe from the culture. Now, this is where Ed gets a little bit of a love bug bite. He all of a sudden starts finding Darulio very interesting, very, very entertaining, and wants to go have drinks with them, and now is entirely infatuated with them. And of course, it kind of builds and builds and builds and builds to where him and Kelly are fighting over Darulio. Who gets to be with Darulio? And then I'm sitting there going, like, there's something wholly off about this situation right here. There's something that's going on that I can't quite figure out, because what the hell is Ed doing? Now, my first thought was like, this has got to be some kind of like, I figured it was like a pheromone of some kind. It turns out I was right, but just not in the same way that it was being transmitted. What it is Darulio every year kind of goes through this heat. He goes into heat where he emits this pheromone that is just like, basically anyone he touches will want to get down, and because they want to get down and they ask for sex, essentially, it's wrong in his culture to turn it down. So essentially, in his entire situation, this dude gets like a freebie every single year. I mean, just imagine this guy in Cancun, and when he's in the heat, it's going to be a slaughterhouse. Right? The entire place is going to look horrible under a UV blacklight. That's how Darulio operates. And it makes sense, because this is just his culture. Now we have this idea, because Claire figures it out, because she, examines them and everything else. So now we know that this is what's going on. It wears off in a couple days, but it emits these feelings of true love. And it's not like they're false or they're fake or anything else. It really is kind of doing this. Now, there's a bit of a catch at this point, which I thought was really funny. We've had a couple episodes of Yaphet trying to get with Claire, man, and he actually goes down there. He's got a guitar, he's got flowers, and he wants to woo her, and she shuts him down. And you understand why. Claire is human, Yaphet is Yaphet, right? Yaphet's a good dude, man. Yaphet belongs with the Blob just like him. And so as a result of that, he had touched Darulio, and then Darulio transferred that to his gelatinous state, which then transferred to Claire when Claire touched him. So all of a sudden, Claire is just like, she is in love with Yaphet, going as far as to them hooking up in the sickbay. And how they have intercourse is interesting to me, because Alara walks in on them, and Claire is naked, and Yaphet has pretty much just engrossed her all the way through, and it's just like her neck, and it's everything. It's totally not your parents' Star Trek, to be honest with you. So that's the thing. And I thought that was hysterical. So you got that moment, and then she's like, "Oh my god," And then of course, Claire starts kind of freaking out, because it's super intense for her, and she starts getting mad at Yaphet, like, "Why haven't you called me?" and everything else. Jealous girlfriend type. But the way the episode kind of builds up to it is Ed and Darulio, they end up hooking up. at least twice, from what I can gather. Now, the first time I thought about this, I didn't in my mind put it together that they in fact got together. Like, they met up in his room. Ed was in the shower. I thought he was just, I thought he was cleaning up leading into it. And then they were on the bed. Darulio was naked. I should have put two and two together. I didn't. I don't know why. But the whole time, though, back to the whole reason why they're there, the Navarians and the Bruidians, they need to have this DNA result in order to know whether or not these two are, they're going to be going to war, or who's going to have the planet. Well, they're getting anxious, as they would normally do, and Darulio and Ed and that whole situation is delaying the process. And so Darulio comes up with the idea, like, hey, hold on, I know how we can help the situation. And they end up going and basically making the two leaders of the group fall in love with one another long enough for them to determine that they both share the same DNA with the original species that Darulio was investigating. Therefore, they both have ownership to the planet, and both fleets go away. We don't quite know what's going to happen once the love potion wears off, so to speak. And I actually hope that down the road that comes back. I hope that down the road we get another examination into that, or we get to see the results of that. And I don't know necessarily if that's going to happen, but we're going to have to wait and find out. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, it doesn't really matter, I think, in the overall scope of the show, but just, I like to see consequences of actions that play out later on. So you never know, this might pop up again. But as the episode ends and Darulio's getting ready to leave, Kelly asks one question, and they left it ambiguous, and I get why they did it, but at the same time, it really does, as a fan of the show, make you think about what happened. Now, Kelly asks Darulio, because it had been a year since the incident of them hooking up and Ed walking in. And she asks him, were you in heat a year ago? And, he basically says, like, he gives a non-answer. I forget if it was maybe, you'll never know sort of thing. But that's essentially where he ends it, is like, we don't know. He left it ambiguous. Now, the reason why they would leave it ambiguous like that is because the show does play with those kind of moral quandaries every once in a while, or just those types of situations. Like, it leaves you thinking and contemplating about what you just saw, and it doesn't just wrap it all up in a nice neat little bow. Sometimes the episodes end relatively messy, like the episode with about a girl, and at the end when they perform the gender surgery, reassignment surgery on the child, because that's the Moclan tradition. It doesn't beat you over the head with its politics, but it does definitely make you question it. Now, there were a lot of people I read after the fact that were not happy with the episode because of the gay undertones, and they were worried. They were upset, thinking like it's shoving this kind of propaganda on people. The thing is, it never even explored that option, because it was never even. It just wasn't a thing. Right? It wasn't a thing at all. The way they handled it was actually probably one of the better ways one could have handled it. It wasn't treated as odd. It wasn't treated as common or as uncommon. It wasn't treated as anything other than just two individuals having an attraction and then bumping pelvises. And that was really about it. And I found that to be actually relatively refreshing, that it wasn't trying to cram any kind of agenda one way or another down anyone's throats. And of course, I'd heard some rumors from some cast or some people who are tight with the production that this kind of stuff's going to be explored further. And you know what? I'm all down for that. Again, Cupid's Dagger was a good episode about establishing the relationship, or what happened in the relationship between Kelly and Ed. And I like the fact that they spent some time with that, because we as the audience are going to go on this journey with them. The will they, won't they, Sam and Diane, blah, 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 all those things. We're going to go on with them. And we have to be there with them when they finally get together. It won't probably be for a while. It definitely won't be this season. It will probably, they'll have a random hookup in season 2, won't lead to an actual relationship, but clearly feelings are going to be espoused. Season 3, maybe they'll get together full time. We'll see what happens. But in the meantime, again, another fantastic episode. I am so sorry for my week delay in getting this thing out, but life sometimes get in the way, and we only have a couple episodes left before the end of the season, and I'm not quite ready for the show to go yet, because every week it still just continues to completely kick ass. Anyway, what do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments below. My name is, of course, Matt Jarbo. This has been my review of the Orville Season 1, Episode 9, Cupid's Dagger. I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a fantastic day, and peace out.